Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this card. This one is very simple, pretty plain, and yet it's a shaker card. And so it's got all of the elements of kind of sparkle and fun here, but as simple as I could make it on the front of the card. The only thing you need to make this card is a card base, 8.5 by 5.5 scored and folded at 4 1/4, and I've got a layering piece for the front here that is 5 1/4 by 4. I used 2 pieces of window sheet that are cut 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, and the reason I used 2 pieces on this card was that I didn't want these little vellum leaves to interfere with the stuff on the inside, and I didn't want the glitter or the sequins to get on this side of those leaves. So I captured those leaves between 2 pieces of window sheet and put that on the card and then put the filling in behind it. If you don't have to take that step if you don't want to. Let's see, I used the largest of the stitched squares frames, and I cut a window out of my layering piece here, centered it towards the top, but on the card. And to save a little bit of time, I've already done that piece. So I have my piece done here. Now, then you need a fairly substantial piece of vellum to cut the leaves. And to make this card, I used 6 of these leaves. And these leaves come from the frosted bouquet dies. And it is this little leaf stamp here that is not represented in the stamp set, but it's just so pretty. I cut 6 of the leaves, 4 for the window, 1 for the front of the card, and then 1 for the inside of the card. And I did my coloring on these leaves using my Stampin' blends. And the blends that I used to do this were the dark Daffodil Delight, the dark or the light Cajun Craze, what is it called? This one is dark Crumb Cake, and the dark Old Olive. And those are the 4 colors that I used, along with some daubers to get my color on my leaves. And I'll show you exactly how I did all of that. So let's just get started. And my thankful stamp comes from Sheltering Tree. And what I did was, on the Sheltering Tree, it says thankful for you. And I was trying to cover this part of the stamp to just get the thankful, and I couldn't do it, so I finally just cut it in half. So I'll put it back so that if I want to put it together, I can, and if I want it separately, I can. Let's get started here. So I'm going to bring in some scratch paper, and I've cut my leaves, several of them here, and I'm going to show you what I did to color these. Now, I've already colored a set, so to save a little bit of time here, but I want to show you exactly what I did. And I have 4 daubers here. I'll show you how to work those so that you can either color directly with the Stampin' blends, or you can use daubers to get your image or your color down. Okay, so I grabbed another one for the yellow. All right, so what I did was I wanted to color directly, and I didn't want the blends to actually unblend some of the colors that I was putting down. So I turned the leaves over, and I colored 1 series of leaves with the brown marker, the dark Crumb Cake here, up the stem and sort of on the tips. I thought in nature, if this were a leaf I found out on the ground, the brown would most likely be on the tips and on the bottom of the stem, because that would be the part that would be the most dried out. Then I thought there might be some green towards the center of the leaf where it hadn't dried out. So I put my green here in the center of the leaves, and then so that I didn't get the blending not where I wanted it, I turned it over and I did the rest of my coloring on the other side. And I also didn't want brush strokes, so what I did was I took my Cajun Craze and I colored the top of a dauber here, and then I dabbed my orange kind of all over this leaf, and I didn't have to worry about the color that I put on the other side that way. And so everything has kind of this Cajun Craze cast to it. And you can do it however you choose. Then I took the Daffodil Delight, and I loved the effect of the yellow over the orange. It just deepened it and made it so pretty. Now I'll bring this leaf up to you so you can get an idea. And I dabbed my yellow in a couple of different places here. Then you can always go back and add more of the Cajun Craze if you want a deeper orange in some of those places on the leaves. And this is, oops, this is the kind of effect that you get when coloring it that way. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but maybe I'll put it on a little piece of white so you can see it. So I've got all of the colors represented on that leaf. There, I think you can see that. And you can use your blends to smooth some of those colors out into some of the other colors if you don't want them to be quite so stark. And I'm just going to take my green and blend it in on this one, and it doesn't take away the colors that are on the other side. So you can see a little bit of, you can make this do just about anything you want to. And when working on vellum, what I found though, the easiest for me was to work on one side with two of the colors and the other side with two other colors. So on this one, I'm going to show you by putting the Cajun Craze on first all over this leaf. And you could do yours so that you only had two colors. And I really didn't, like I say, want brush marks or anything else, so I thought maybe using the dauber would take care of that, and pretty much it did. Now there's with just the orange on it. I think that's awful pretty just the way it is. And then you could add a little bit of the yellow to get that kind of deep color just along the edges of this. And this is, there's no right or wrong. This is just whatever appeals to you, and you can make it be anything you'd like. I mean, that two-tone color there, let me put it on this, is awful pretty just the way it is. So I'd encourage you to play around with this and see if you can't find a color combination that really kind of works for you. Okay, so what I have is, I'm going to add a little bit more orange to that one. All right, so what I have is I have a bunch of leaves here that I've already colored, and I've put all of the colors on most of them. So, and I have way more here than I need. But the vellum is brittle, and I could see where in messing around with it you might actually break a piece, so I have extras. All right, so in order to I mean, like I said, the only thing I would say is I used blends. I tried on the card that I did make, that's our sample here today. I did some with the Cajun Craze ink, but I found you really need to let that dry, or you need to use your heat tool, because I got Cajun Craze all over my hands, and then of course I got it all over my card. And the nice thing about using the blends is that they're alcohol based, and so they dry pretty quickly. And so no chance of transferring that over to your nice white card. The other thing I would say is keep a damp cloth and wash your hands frequently so that you don't end up with some color pretty much where you don't want it. Okay, so here's my card base. And what I did was, once I got my piece cut out here with my stitched frame, I placed this on my card approximately where I thought I might want it to go. And then I used a pencil to just put a couple of little pencil marks right on the corner here, so I would know where my square is. And there I've got my square. And what I did was I used these daubers to take a little bit of that color from, oh, let's say the old olive, and put a little bit of color on the background piece here. Where's my scratch paper here? To just get a little bit of color on the back side of this piece here. And I put all of the colors because I wanted this not to be completely stark white behind here. Now, so let me add a little bit of the colors that I wanted to here. And I took the yellow and I just added a bit of color to the back of this panel, again just so that it wouldn't be quite so stark. Let me add a little of the Cajun Craze. And I'm going to dab that off a little bit off screen, and then just get kind of a hint of the orange on here. There we go. And I know it looks a bit like a hot mess, but once you have all of the other elements in place, you hardly even see it. But I didn't want it to be a stark background. And this allows me to put this down right where I know I'm going to end up with my window over the top. So for this, I just used a little bit of tape runner, and I put my piece in place. You don't even need to erase your marks, because once your card comes together, you won't be able to see any of that. But there, I've got it down roughly where my window's going to go. That allows me also to use my adhesive strips and know right where to put them on the bottom of this card in order to get my shaker box created here. So I'm just going to take a piece of this adhesive strip here, and what I'm going to do is set it up so that it butts right up against that square. Now then, for the other part of my card, what I did here, first of all, I think what I'm going to do is grab my Cajun Craze ink and stamp my sentiment. There's my ink, and here is my thankful, which I'm just going to put right down here at the bottom of my card. Let me see if I can put that on there straight. There we go, thankful. I thought that was so nice and simple. And the whole point behind this card is really pretty simple. Okay, so next it is putting the component pieces of this together. The first thing I'm going to do is to take my piece here and turn it over and put some tape, adhesive tape, right along the edges of my opening here, and lay one of my windows across the opening. There we go. Then I'm going to arrange my leaves here so that they come in from the four sides. And let's see, kind of like this. Let's take that sample and kind of keep an eye on it here so you can see what it is I'm doing here. And I basically got it coming in from all four sides, and they even overlapped a little in here. So just like that. And what I did was I used a little bit of tape runner just on the very bases here of the vellum leaves, because this part isn't going to show. And so there I've got my tape runner, and then I just need to make sure that when I put that leaf in place, none of the piece that has tape runner on it shows. There we go. Put it in place. All four of them here, using really very little glue because I'm going to put the other window to help hold it in place as well. So there we go. There's that one. And one more for up here. And again, just a little bit of tape along the bottom. And there we have our leaves in place. Then I'm going to run another little bit of tape along here, along the edge of that window sheet there, and those leaves. And I'm going to take my other window and just put it into place over the top. And there I've got my leaves captured and covered, and not in a place where they're going to interfere in any way or be interfered with by the material on the back. And you see, when I put this in place here, what we're going to end up with is this put into place and covering this, and the background that you see underneath, the color that you see underneath, which isn't a whole lot, is going to be even less visible once we put our fillings in. So here we have our box built around the back of this. Now I have some of our iridescent sequined assortment here, and what I'm going to do is add a little bit of these sequins to the inside of the card here. And then I'm going to add just a tiny bit of the glitter, the dazzling diamonds here. And Oops, I've got some escaping here. Put those back in there. And I took just a little bit of this glitter because I thought it added something in the sparkle. The rest of this card is so simple and plain that I did want a little bit of bling on here. So there I've got my pieces added, and now what I'm going to do is remove my release paper on my adhesive strips here. Then we're going to add some dimensionals or some tape here, foam tape. I think we can do it with dimensionals. I'm just going to add some dimensionals here on the card so that it will be supported and be at the same height as this box that we've built here is on the inside. Okay, now I'm going to put this in place, centered on my card base here. And if I measured correctly, that will go on the front of our card and have a similar margin all the way around. And there's our shaker. And you can see, as dark as that background was in spots, you virtually almost can't see the color. And if it does anything, it enhances the color of the leaves here. So there we go. Now I have one more leaf that I was going to put right down here. And I'm going to do that with some Tombow glue. And what I'm going to do is to put a little bit of glue down on my silicone mat here. And I'm going to put this glue on the back of my leaf here and just cover pretty much the whole thing. That's the thing about glue on vellum. You only see it if it's in a few places. If it's all over, you just don't see it. So I'm going to add my leaf down here to the bottom and put that into place there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with one more leaf and put it on the inside. So I think I'll take this one that we colored that was only 2 colors and put that into place on the inside of my card. Probably easier to do that with the sponge, but I've already got it ready to go. I'm going to slide it up a little bit more in the corner here and tap it into place. And then I'm going to trim off the corner there, the leaf or the stem. And I can see I probably need to set that down. There we go. All right, and so what I'm going to do then is just trim away this stem here. Looks like I got a dab of glue here where I didn't intend. That's the nice thing using Tombow, that once it is dry, then you can go back in and use your glue eraser to take it off of any of the places that you don't want it. Clean up that glue as long as I'm at it here and get that set aside. Okay, so there we have, I'll move these out of the way now, And there we have our project for the day. Um, that's the project. I just am in love with how simple this is, and what a pretty presentation it makes to put the color in. Now this one is more vibrantly colored than this one, and I don't believe that any two would ever come out the same anyway. And I'm just tickled to death with it. It's, like you said, nice and simple, and not a hard card to make at all. Actually, the hardest thing is cutting out the number of little leaves that you need. And you could cut these, you could make them copper leaves, and not do any coloring at all. And I think they would still be stunning. So I thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, then I'd love to be your demonstrator. Now these leaves in that die cut are in the holiday catalog out of that frosted floral suite. And so those leaves would do. We have a leaf punch. There's a number of places that you could do this from, with probably things that you may already have in your stash, and make this beautiful, simple fall thankful card. And I'm really pleased with the way it came out. Again, thanks for stopping by. I do so appreciate it. The prize draw for October is a $50 shopping spree on me. So this is the month we'll get people to decide what they'd like to have for themselves as a prize. Let's see, we've passed a quarter, so it's a good time to join Stampin' Up! If you're thinking about that at all, because your first quarter to make your first minimum doesn't happen until March. So you get the rest of this year plus all of the first quarter before your first minimum is due. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards and more projects. Bye!